What's going on, everyone? Welcome once again to a Bitchuation room. That's right, you're in the room, the Bitchuation room. It's kind of like the AutoZone, but I have no idea how to change the oil in my car or fix the undercarriage that scrapes against my driveway. Yeah, that's it's like, yeah, anyway. Hope you guys are doing good. Thank you so much for being here, for press and play. We have such a good show. Jack O'Brien of the Daily Zeitgeist is here for the hour and change. So get excited for that. Later on in the show, Nalini Stamp of Working Families Party is going to be joining us. We're going to talk about 3 years since the BLM uprising in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, in addition to other things like Oathkeepers seeing the inside of a prison cell. We're going to talk a little bit about Minnesota, what's going on there? Uber drivers basically got screwed by the governor of Minnesota, even though he's been doing some good things. And then we're going to talk about the only story that should matter to anyone who listens to the show, which is White Gladys. That's right. It's like White Lotus, but for the people. White Gladys is the killer whale that has been tipping over yachts in Gibraltar. So we're going to talk about other animals that could join this general strike and get us somewhere. Because humans, we're not doing it. Not quickly enough. You know what I'm saying? So if you are here, make sure you are liking the like buttons and you are subscribing to the subscribe buttons. And, you know, you're just giving this podcast 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps people discover the show. It helps people find out that, you know, this is just, it's the best part of your week, y'all. It's a labor of love. Sorry, I'm trying to load something on Twitch. I get technology. And of course, this is not the only show. There is bonus content every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, that you can watch live. But if you don't have the time, listen back at your leisure. Watch back at your leisure by becoming a patron, patreon.com/bitchuationroom. We're going to talk about some ridiculous stories. I just found the QAnon shaman is apparently selling yoga leggings, because of course. So maybe we can talk about those. Maybe I'll get some in order to wear them. Because I don't want to support him, but I'm kind of curious, you know. Also, if you become a patron, you get access to the American Prospect Online and a deep discount. We're talking 60% off. I believe it's only $24 a year for the bi-monthly American Prospect, which I write the last page of, the back page, the back column. And there's a new edition out right now. So make sure to get that. I wrote about gun violence and how gun jokes aren't funny anymore. And it's impossible as a stand-up comic to make gun jokes funny, even though we all want to. I'm just tired of trying. I'm tired in general. Anyway, so holler at that, and thank you so much for the new patrons who've joined. We have nobody at $10 or more, which gets you the shout out during the fart song, so you have time. You've got an hour to become a patron, $10 or more. But you can also become a member here on YouTube or on Twitch, or tip the show, TBR-Live on Venmo, TBR Live on Cash App. Man, I am tired of my own spiel. And with that, let's get into it, good people. Get your bitch caps on. This is What Are You Bitching About? So much has happened, all right? We didn't do a bonus last week. I was very overwhelmed. I could bitch about how my entire body hurts right now. Entire body hurts. Like it's just completely in pain. I could bitch about how the baby won't nap right now and is probably sleeping on her arm weird, and then it gets mad if you move it, and then will scream and cry. I could bitch about Joe Biden and how the fact that we are going to settle and negotiate with terrorists, i.e. the Republican Party, when it comes to the debt ceiling, which will throw people off of their food benefits, which will throw a bunch of the programs that he himself set out to create, i.e. expanding the IRS's ability to go after rich people who avoid their taxes. All that stuff's gone. All because Joe Biden doesn't want to mint the coin, which he could put one of his dogs on. Some, Sergeant on the coin, on the $1 trillion coin, Sergeant, hell yeah. And he doesn't want to, what else? He doesn't want to invoke the 14th Amendment. So once again, I could bitch about that, which I kind of just did. But I want to talk about the end of Succession. There we go. Let's do it. If you haven't seen the end of Succession, please turn this off and come back in 5 minutes. I truly don't want to spoil this for you, because I truly believe you should watch it and you should enjoy it, and no one should take that from you. And I understand I'm saying that to people who are terminally online or perpetually listening to podcasts, and you probably have not avoided having the end spoiled for you, but I care. Unlike the other people, I care. But I will say, having given that caveat, I'm bitching about something very specific about Succession, which is that people don't like Shiv Roy. Ew, she's the girl and she's mean. Yeah, she's a stone cold cunt, all right? And she deserves to be, okay? Look, I'm not going to yes queen her just because she's one of the only women. But I will say this. She is entitled to be just as terrible as everyone else. And she's she's arguably the most terrible in a lot of ways, because she's interpersonally terrible. But I'm bitching about the fact that some people are like, but she's in a loveless marriage. I'm sorry. Do you think any of these children growing up under Logan Roy, do you think any of the Murdochs have known love? Like, the closest they've had to love was like, their nanny hugging them like a second longer than she was ordered to, right? Like, that's their close. So, like, loveless marriage. Have you watched Succession? No one's asking for a marriage and love. You're asking for civility, some amount of respect. And the move that Shiv makes at the end of Succession, in the service of giving Tom a vote of confidence, is the closest to love we're ever going to get. And Shiv Roy is so brilliant, you guys. You got to understand, as a woman who, like me, who is like, look, I like when characters, strong female leads, are not like lame and two-dimensional, where they're like, tell him he can take that to the bank, or like, you better, like, there's always some, like, I wear tweed skirts and with high slits, and yes, I've slept with all of your husbands, and I am like, there's just, it's so corny, like the corporate lady is so corny to me, and they're so two-dimensional, and they're so non-human. And Shiv is competent and interesting and conflicted and traumatized, just in the ways that her brothers are. But she's a woman, so she has to also fight against her father's sexism, the corporate world sexism, and then her soon-to-be boss's sexism, even though she did everything to get this dude Mattson to win. It's just... So anyway, I guess it's in defense of Shiv Roy, even though she totally would be like a Hillary Clinton pantsuit nation, like, see you next Tuesday. I've already said cunts. It doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm... So... all I have to say is Tom on top. I love Matthew McFadden. I don't give a shit. I love him. He doesn't care that I love him. If you're listening, Matthew, I love you. I'm tired. That's my Succession, bitch, you guys. And I'm sorry if I spoiled it for you, but watch it anyway. And with that, let me bring into the room to bitch and to bitchuate the host of the Daily Zeitgeist. There's only one, right? There's not like another guy. No, yeah. The co-host of the Daily Zeitgeist, Mr. Jack O'Brien.
Hey, it me. I'm the only acknowledged host. He's the co-host. I'm the host. No, that's not true. Yeah. I have a co-host, Miles Gray, one of the greats, one of the best to ever do it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Now, can you hear me?
I can. You're coming through loud and clear.
Was I having problems or no? Is this an old conversation?
As far as I can tell, you were not. But I think there are some contentions that the mic is not picking you up correctly. I think you sound fabulous.
How about now?
Dang, there it is.
There she is.
Boom.
All right. Well, good. I didn't get anything too important other than defending Shiv Roy.
Yeah. I mean, we could hear you. It just was coming through your computer, I guess, maybe?
It was coming.
And
Yeah, it was
not
coming through the
microphone.
camera.
Yeah.
It's not good either way. You probably could hear the garbage trucks. It's fine. Mercury's not in retrograde, which means none of this is real.
The garbage trucks are texture, and they let us know that, we're talking to a person in the real world. So I think it's a win for us.
Why do there have to be 3? Why
All at
can't
once.
there be one that takes
Yeah.
3 of them? And then, of course, I say that online, and someone's like, "Oh, because you're all going to different places." And I'm like, I know they're all going to different places.
Yeah. That's our number one export as a civilization is garbage. So
trash.
we gotta stay on top of it.
Dude, I love how like we're gonna enter into World War, I guess 3 or 3.5, 4, whichever this next, like with China, because like China is refusing to take more of our trash.
Right.
And we're like, damn it. Like we have to sit in our own e-waste. We're gonna like launch them as projectiles in the future.
Yeah. We love to consume and we love to fart it right back out into the streets under the garbage. Yeah.
Indeed. Jack O'Brien, it's a Tuesday, and that means we bitch. We bitchuate on all the things. But so what are you bitching about today?
I mean, I have very big Dennis Leary energy. I'm just like kind of like that. You know what's ticking me off?
Yeah.
That's kind of my persona on my show for people who don't know me. No, that's not true. I do just wish Shiv was more like me. I did sleep with all your husbands. I do wear a tweed skirt. So that's, I was gonna bitch about that quite a bit, but I figured I'd talk about something that you probably don't talk about a lot on this show, which is NBA coverage. The coverage.
Oh God, no,
the national basketball. So the NBA is the National Basketball Association. They are in the playoffs. And I
thought it was no boys allowed. That's why they're just men.
I wish. I think
there's a playoff. Did the Celtics do good?
The Celtics just lost to the Miami Heat. So the Miami Heat are the thing I want to talk about, and it's not going to be a basketball thing. It's going to be like about other stuff than basketball. But I think it's the way the NBA is being covered is kind of symptomatic of like this thing that I'm seeing. So I think people are just like generally unhappy right now, like coming out of the pandemic. And
not just in the NBA, not just
in the NBA, but like I think it's coming out in like the ways we cover media that has nothing to do with like the reasons that people are unhappy. So like the examples of like people being unhappy, like so they're the 8th seed, which is the lowest seed you could possibly be in the NBA, just made it to the NBA finals. Crazy underdog story, exactly the sort of thing that.
So like RFK Jr. just won the Democratic nomination.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. Okay. The Miami Heat have used that analogy to motivate them. They're like, we are the RFK Jr. of this basketball shit. But it's this incredible underdog story, and like Miles and I also do a NBA podcast, Miles and Jack Got Mad Boosties, and like as I've been like watching the coverage, it's just weird. Like I wanted to, after they beat the 1 seed in the first round, I like wanted to tune in and like listen to people talk about how awesome this team is playing, how like they have this super charismatic like player who is just like really cool, really fun, Jimmy Butler, like everybody loves him. And like you tune in and all anyone's talking about is like how the like 1 seed that they beat is like choked or like collapsed, and like everybody just wants to like focus on how bad the teams are and like the pain of the teams. And like I've also noticed there's like a new trend where like they blame players for like getting hurt, which didn't used to be a thing. They like get mad at players when they get hurt and they're like, well, his career is nothing. And it's just, I think
I knew you were weak.
Yeah. I think we're just generally unhappy, and it's coming out in weird ways that like I think we can let it out in when we're talking about the NBA, because like that explicitly like has nothing to do with the thing that is making us unhappy. Like,
well, I've been told by my my husband that the NBA is like kind of great in a lot of ways in terms of players are all pretty chill. I mean, not everyone. Owners and coaches are pretty chill, and like it's just sort of like a positive vibe.
Yeah.
Definitely social justice minded and oriented, and like fans are cool. And there's obviously not a lot of concussing, which is
Right.
great. But it sounds like maybe that's fading away, and that the NBA and basketball generally is actually becoming a little more nasty and like every other sport. Is that kind of what's happening or no?
It just seems like compared to how it was covered and talked about in the fairly recent past, it's gotten more just negative and mean.
Yeah.
And I just think I've seen it like in other places in the media, like our regular show, the Daily Zeitgeist, is more of a like news show. And so you see it in like people just opening fire on people who like come to their doorbell and like ring
Right,
the
right.
wrong doorbell.
Right.
But I think it just also like comes out there. We're coming to the end of anyone really buying into this like central narrative of, you know, the meaning that big picture, like big corporate capitalism allows for us. And
Yeah,
I
we're
don't know.
bumping up on the edges. Like, I don't play video games, but if this were like all a simulation, which it definitely
Sure.
is, we're like we're like bumping up on the edges. Because I was the player who was like, I'm gonna find the edge of this game because I
Right.
don't know why. I'm like, and so you're just like, and so like on all the things that have been thrown our way to like deal with the ins and outs of daily terrors of capitalism and everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Sports being one of them. It's like, oh man, now sports kind of is mean too.
Yeah. And I mean, sports has always been mean. It just feels like even like ESPN and like the like central, like mainstream, like way that sports is covered is even like drifting to this direction where it's just like all about like these guys are losers and like it was a collapse and a choke job and not just being excited about the thing that we're kind of
Don't
all
people
there to
love
watch.
underdogs?
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I'm saying. Like, and I'm not a huge Miami Heat fan. I just
Right.
think like when I go to like listen to a podcast from this guy Zach Lowe, who's like really smart about basketball, but like he spent the whole day after this amazing upset just like complaining about like how bad the other team was and like kind of assuming that like they had screwed things up instead of like even mentioning once like how amazing this guy had played. And
That's so lame. Yeah, no, that's
yeah,
so sad. That's
yeah,
but that's always it's much easier and it's much more content, and they know they're not exempt from the content game. They know that if they go negative on something, they clip that up. You think no one's going to be like, "Oh my god, yay, Butler is
yeah,
such a great play. He's a good guy." No one's going to
yeah.
click on that. They're going to click on all the shade and all the shit talking.
Right. Part of me, like, I think that's the standard explanation is just that, like, social media makes it better to just, like, see the shade and, like, or it makes the shade, like, rise to the top. And
Yes.
part of me also wonders if, like, we're just sublimating all of this dread and angst and, like, all the ways that we've been, like, cut off from community. And we're just like, all right, well, we're unhappy. So we're going to take it out elsewhere because we don't really have, like, the internal vocabulary for describing like what's wrong, I guess.
Yes.
So we're just going to be mad at one another. And then I feel like we're also not in a great place to like have the vocabulary to describe this as it should be coming to an end. We'll
I
see if it
mean,
actually does.
we all need therapy. Everyone needs that, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about. I was thinking the other day. I was like, is there a country around the world that like is stronger because of the pandemic? Like, is it Australia? Is it New Zealand? Is it one of the places that like took things seriously but wasn't too authoritarian about it? Like, which place was like, you know what? We've got a really good sense of camaraderie now.
All
Like,
right.
I immediately want to say Spain, but I just don't know. I only assume, everything feels like it's better over there.
Yeah.
You getting some love in the comments. Schmegley says Sprots. So
Nice. So
yeah.
I knew this is a sports podcast, right? I got the assignment.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
like
For sure.
we covered on the Daily Zeitgeist how like there's a right to repair movement in France, and they're
Mhm.
like just suing the bejesus out of Apple because Apple like creates
Yes.
this, you know, forced obsolescence of their products and makes it so you can't like replace a part with that same part unless it's done by Apple, and it ends up being like a lot of times cheaper to just replace it with the iPhone. And like
Yep.
that is that's like a right that I had fully just abandoned and like given up on 15 years ago. You
Right,
know,
right,
it's
right, right, right.
like the fact that I guess that's what I mean by like the vocabulary. Like we don't even know what we should be asking for because things are just
I feel like that.
so Apple's like forced obsolescence becomes a story about like how great their bottom line is, you
Yeah.
know, in the United States.
I have a random question. You don't have to answer it, but I am curious. This is just me thinking out loud about the first thing I was bitching about that was off mic, most of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do Republicans watch Succession?
Great question.
Like I was thinking this is a, I mean, obviously HBO, it's but it's like it's not prestige TV in the way maybe The Sopranos was. People have it. People watch other stuff. Do Republicans watch it and are like, oh yeah, this is kind of like the Murdochs and the people who run the world? Or do they watch it and they think, oh yeah, this is just like the Clintons? Anyway.
Right. Or do they just watch it rooting for the Roys and for like the Fox News stand-in to just succeed and dominate? They were
Yeah.
like, I hope nobody actually challenges the election results in Milwaukee because
Yes.
that guy deserves to win. He was just playing hardball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mankin, man. Yeah, anyway. Interesting. I'm curious about people's thoughts. Well, we got to get into this week. A few things happened. Nalini Stamp's gonna be joining us. Only 3 things happened though, in according to this show.
Yeah, that's
because
it.
this is the week where. So this was a week where we got some real accountability for the January 6th attempted coup. My immediate reaction when I saw what was unfolding was like, no one will be held accountable. And
Right.
granted, Donald Trump still has yet to be held accountable.
Sure.
Alex Jones, Roger Stone, et cetera, et cetera. But a man named Stuart Rhodes, but I will remind you, his first name is Elmer Stuart Rhodes, who answers the question, what if a pirate was also a virgin? Was sentenced to 18 years in prison for sedition on January 6th. Apparently, he had $17,000 worth of firearms. He called for bloody revolution. He led 30 or so Oathkeepers on January 6th. One of the things they did do was try to provide security for Roger Stone. Rhodes he's the head of it. He formed it in 2009. The Oathkeepers are basically like former servicemen and women who are trying to uphold the Constitution and the oath they took to the Constitution by creating an anti-government militia designed to overthrow the
Right.
government with its said Constitution. But anyway, I mean, I guess you could say this is like the well-regulated militia that the
Right.
Constitution always talks about. Like maybe he's doing that.
That I'm sure that's what he has in mind, like in like all the dusty like literature that gets passed around by these people. But
Oh God.
it's yeah, they're still on like the Revolutionary War of it all and trying to start the Civil War again. Seem to like explicitly be his aim both before and after January 6th. Like he wasn't great at remorse, the whole remorse thing, it seems like.
Right. And the judge openly said, you're still a threat to this country. That's why 18 years, man. That is not nothing. And so we'll see. I think my favorite part about Stuart Rhodes is he's a Yale Law School graduate.
Yeah.
Which just goes to my theory. Yes, he did serve he served in the army.
Right.
But like the idea that like Jan 6 was like, the
people.
working class.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man. These guys were boat dads who were like, parking their Teslas. I mean, who knows? They probably were. But like they set up, so the town that I'm from, the one person who like the community knows that this woman went to the Capitol building on January 6th, like owns a candy shop like is like a business owner, you know,
She's
like
just
in
like a
our little
sweet,
sleepy
sweet old
town.
lady.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, she's more of a Karen type, you know, like
Yeah.
like closed it up, closed for a few days. I'm gonna go coo.
Off
Gone
to coup.
cooing.
Yeah.
Off to
Be
coo.
back soon.
Yeah, the clock set.
How'd she do? Is
You know,
she
I
on
think
trial?
she's not. She's not. I'm sure she definitely had some local protests, I believe. But I should follow up with what's going on. But anyway, so even though, you know, Rhodes wasn't the only person who was sentenced, a number of other Oath Keepers were, but both Donald Trump and Governor Ron DeSantis have suggested they might pardon many of those convicted in Jan 6, as Mr. Rhodes himself said at the sentencing hearing. Just solid job, bro. Like you want a judge to go light on you? You're just gonna say, "I'll be pardoned." The Capitol riot defendants are increasingly viewed by many people on the right not as violent criminals, but as patriots and political prisoners. Indeed.
Yeah. The judge's like reading of his judgment was the closest I've heard in a real court of law to that speech from Billy Madison, topical ref, but where he's like, you know, you are awarded no points and may God have mercy on your soul. It was just, he was just like so clear cut. He was like, you're not a political prisoner, sir. You are a threat. You're a bad person. People don't like you. You probably don't smell great, would be
and
my
that
guess.
eye patch is definitely a prop.
Yeah, it's kind of working for it. Like in terms of branding as like evil villain, I feel like it's kind of working for him. It seems like that's probably what he had in mind.
It is, but when you have to wear eyeglasses above the eye patch,
Yeah, you got to
I
go
don't know.
monocle.
But yeah, exactly. You
Has
gotta
anyone
go
done
monocle.
patch one side, monocle other? Because I feel like that's what we
Definitely.
need.
It's what we need. But yeah, he's got to keep the Yale in there somewhere. So he needs those sort of like half wire frame glasses. Yes, the judge was pretty harsh. There were other two Oath Keepers, however. This is an interesting twist. Jessica Watkins and Kenneth Harrelson were also given prison sentences, 8.5 years and 4 years, respectively, though on charges of obstructing the certification of the election rather than sedition. 4 members of the Proud Boys were convicted of sedition, including Enrique Tarrio, and they're scheduled to be sentenced in August with a 5th member of the group. And Tarrio has, I mean, to say nothing of the information he was handing to the FBI, he also was like working with a DC police officer. A lot of new shit come to light about that. But let's talk about this woman, Jessica Watkins, because in fact, Jessica Watkins is trans. That's right. And much of Watkins' emotional testimony focused on her struggles as a trans woman in the military. A journey, she said, made her fearful and paranoid and drove her deep into the world of conspiracy theories, according to CNN. And the judge said, you have overcome a lot. And you are to be held out as someone who can actually be a role model for other people in that journey. And I say that it is a time when people who are trans in our country are so often vilified and used for political purposes. However, he is still getting 8 years. So
there could have done so much more.
Yeah. So 8.5 years. She was a U.S. Army veteran, and she founded a local militia in Ohio and which she mobilized to join her in attacking the Capitol on January 6th, which I think that's kind of everything that we're dealing with right now coming full circle. Like traumatized vet who was then like also trans, dealing with their own identity. And the judge was like, you could have been a role model, but instead you got maggot.
Just overlapping horror show of a country that producing not great results, surprisingly.
Yeah, but you don't see anyone like obviously heralding Jessica. Like no one is like, you know, Watkins. I mean, think about like if Ashley Babbitt were transgender, would the right still defend her? Like, is that, you know what I mean? Like under what circumstances? Because, you know, Chelsea Manning was not given this treatment.
Right.
Not by the right, not by pretty much not by centrists, not by Democrats, really. Although I did cry when Obama pardoned Chelsea Manning. I was like on a plane going to the inauguration of Trump, which, and we got word on the plane, and I was like, nah.
Yeah. That was
fine. We called him Final Lap Obama at the time. Flobama, Final Lap Obama. It was best Obama, man.
Yeah. He didn't give a fuck. Yeah.
He did not give a fuck. But there we go. So now, Jack, do you think that the right is going to get woke around like the prison industrial complex and how terrible we treat people? They are sort of like showing some
Yeah,
signs.
maybe this is a
And
backdoor into them.
Yeah, they're
trying
gonna.
to fight the carceral state.
Yeah.
They, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because anytime you think, okay, the right might like come around on this one, like for instance, I think they're complaining recently that Chick-fil-A has gone too woke because so they're just they have
serving
no
on Sundays?
loyalty to anyone. I feel like if
Yeah.
this person, if Elmer Stewart Rhodes is like, guys, it's really bad in here, they'll be like, all right, shut the fuck up, we're gonna move on to a different person wearing an eye patch to lead our revolution.
Yeah. We're talking about, what is it today? We're talking about Target. Like we're on to getting mad at Target rainbow flags today.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's what we've moved on from. No, I mean that's but effectively the things they have said is like, hello, we're not black, okay? Like that's like every time you see them talk about the prison, the carceral system and like how bad conditions are, they're like, I'm blonde. Yeah. So that's I mean, QAnon shaman again. I mentioned selling leggings.
Selling leggings, and he didn't like the food offerings in prison, right?
Oh, there was nothing vegan. It wasn't vegan, organic, or like, it wasn't farm to table. I think there needs to be a special farm to table prison system. If only they knew,
locally sourced.
Yeah. If only they knew that's kind of like low key what abolitionists kind of want is like, a humane system.
Yeah, but he didn't make prison abolition his main thing after he had that experience. Like,
unlike, guess who fucking did? Unlike Martha Stewart. You remember that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Martha Stewart. It's a real one. But yeah,
and
I feel
not
like
just because of her Sports Illustrated cover.
That's right. I feel like rooting for the right to like come around on good, just ideas is like the people who are like rooting for the succession children to like win and inherit. It's like that's not the point of the show. It's like now I think they figured it out this time. I think we're good, and they're going to just like
Kendall's really
hang. They're just gonna have a nice hang for the next couple decades. Yeah.
No, agreed. I think it's again also people grasping at straws where I get it. You have to try to make sense of the right in some way possible. You have to. I don't mean that we dehumanize them, because I think progressives overly humanize some of the right, but I think this like need to be like, oh, we can work together on this one thing. It's like, I mean, Van Jones already did that with Jared Kushner, but I'm not going to talk about that today. Okay, let's move on to our second story here, because this was the week where Minnesota Governor Tim Walz vetoed a bill that would grant Uber drivers just a modicum of worker protections in that state after Uber itself threatened to boycott. They were like, we're only going to let like Uber Black and Uber X or SUVs operate in your state. Unclear how the boycott, how the threat came down, but the Minnesota House and Senate had passed this law that would set minimum pay rates for Uber and Lyft drivers. So we can look at those. It was $1.45 a mile and 34 cents per minute, which is clearly an insane amount of money, but
way too much.
Way too much.
Yeah.
But a little bit on board with like cab drivers, right? Which is per mile. It's, it increases the longer you're going. So it makes some sense. This is not the same bill in California. It was not stipulating that drivers had to be full-time or part-time employees. It didn't say anything about healthcare. It was just like, hey, they should make minimum this amount.
Yeah.
But no, it was vetoed. Uber said it would pull out of Minnesota at the beginning of August if the bill passed, leaving its only premium service in the state's largest metropolitan region. But the initial push Both Uber and Lyft had urged Walz, to veto the bill, while rideshare drivers had lined the hallway outside the governor's Capitol office in recent days, chanting encouragement for him to sign it. The bill was sponsored by Senator Omar Fateh of Minneapolis, who came up late in the session. When it passed on the Senate Sunday, drivers outside the Senate chamber held Fateh aloft as they celebrated. What does aloft look or sound like? Take a look. I don't know what they're chanting.
Yeah.
It's not Omar Fateh. It's not, I think maybe like we won or.
Yeah.
But this passed.
Yeah, it passed. It was a big win. And then it was deemed unrealistic, too big a win. They were like, this feels. That's one of the things that drives me crazy. Like in his logic of vetoing this, he was saying that like this is not the bill for it. It's like unrealistic, and we'll throw it to like a bunch of
study it.
Yeah, we're gonna throw it to like a bunch of Zoom meetings where nothing happens, and just like put it in perpetual like purgatory. But like that seems to be the main and like a pretty effective counter to anything progressive that like in the mainstream media you will always see them portray it as like childish or like not serious or not mature. It's always just like, yeah, these are not serious people, because think about how it would affect the bottom line, and that's the only thing.
Or there's some unintended consequences and we just haven't studied it enough, and who knows. And it really, the answer is just like, I just feel like if workers made this, they would feel that their work like had value. And wow,
Yeah, that would be a problem.
There's unintended consequences. I mean, this is the whole thing, the grasping, like every time there's a Medicare for all discussion, and like everyone was like, well, you see, here's the thing, if people don't have to pay for their life-saving surgeries.
I'm gonna need a minute here. Yeah, no, they're very careful when it comes to anything that like will affect their next quarterly earnings report, like even percentage point, but they are very willing to experiment when it comes to like disrupting the entire like how we get around, and like putting taxi companies out of business nationwide. They're willing to explore the studio space on that one. But
I mean, it's crazy because this is the thing that like, it didn't pass here in California in terms of making these drivers like actual employees. Massive amounts of money poured into that effort. And so it didn't even get to Newsom's desk. He didn't worry. I mean, our Democrats in the state legislature here honestly suck as well. So I'm not sure if it would even. Our Democrats,
Our boys and girls in Washington.
No, our Democrats here in Sacramento. I'm sorry. I'm starting local. Also Washington. But I mean, well, one of them doesn't know she's actually in Washington, but that's neither here nor there or anywhere, according to her. And this is interesting though, because like Walz been doing great shit. He's a guy who signed the free lunch programs and got like a big old bear hug from like all those children, just like the most heartwarming thing. He legalized recreational weed today.
Wow.
Voted to protect abortion rights, or I think there was an executive order, declared Minnesota to be a refuge state for abortion seekers. There's a lot of good stuff coming out of this governor and the state legislature, but they just couldn't get over Uber or Lyft. So
yeah. I mean, it's everything that is, has the capital behind it is just automatically assumed to be the, sensible decision, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Until they
will use to justify. Yeah, till they. I have a feeling I know what the results of the study are going to be, which is no results. They just studied it too damn hard and were unable to come to a decision or ever bring this up ever again.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't.
Forced to.
Someone just couldn't take themselves off mute from the Zoom, and so we just did the whole thing on mute. And it was I don't want to get into it.
Right.
Well, we have our third and final sitch, but I don't know if we have my guest, Nalini Stamp. She may not be on. Paj. I don't think she's on, so that's okay.
Paj.
Paj.
Yeah.
That's fancy page, because I'm calling on her in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
But this was also the week where we marked 3 years since the massive Black Lives Matter uprising on the back of the police murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, which ignited this movement. And I feel like every Memorial Day, you know, yes, you see the like drunk college students in like some floaty place. There's always like it's like Florida. They're all just like drinking White Claws in on a floaty. Like that's like Memorial Day. But then since 2020, I think of George Floyd. I think of where we all were. I think of being under lockdown. I think of, you know, here in LA, what that looked like, obviously around the country, what that looked like. And it's nice that like groups like Movement for Black Lives sends out, you know, reminders of who George Floyd was. Yeah. Not only the man that sparked this movement, but, and I'm quoting from them, a kind man who would walk female coworkers to their cars to ensure their safety. He loved Latin music, but would dance terribly to make others laugh. Now, I love that part specifically because like I do that on purpose as well. Like, I just lean into being a mediocre dancer and I'm like, I'm just going to go with this. Yeah. His death, I mean, his murder also, like for the first time, we saw police officers have been sentenced to jail. Chauvin was sentenced to 22 and a half years, then 21 more years for violating Floyd's civil rights, which is fascinating in this country that it's like, that's almost the same amount of time for murdering him. Right. But violating your civil rights, like doubled the sentence. Then all the other officers involved, Kung was sentenced to 3 years, Tao 3.5 for violating Floyd's rights. Officer Lane was sentenced to 2 years in prison. So there's been some accountability, but it's mostly contained, right? It's like, how can we just make sure there's just we make an example about this and then we learn fucking nothing from it. So, police murders obviously have continued. Disproportionately, Black people are targeted. But there's also not a lot been done on the executive level. So I will get into that in a second, but I just want to show you like where things stand now, public opinion wise. 80% of Americans want police officers to face legal action for abuse of power, unnecessary harm. 78% support community-based alternatives to policing. That's huge. Yeah. That's a 2022 Gallup poll. Right. And such as violence intervention programs. Huge.
Yeah. And I feel like that is not the core, like the just core, like mainstream media takeaway from the protests of 2020 was that like the phrase defund the police was a thorn in the side of like serious politicians, and it was a disaster. Nobody will ever do that. Nobody will ever want that. Police have like remained kind of petulant since then. And then they did this thing where they blamed a rise in crime during the shutdown on that movement somehow. And it wasn't like, there's no statistics to back that up. And in fact, the statistics suggest that one of the big causes of the rise in crime was that all those programs that aren't police, but are like, you know, social programs to keep kids occupied and, safe, and, violence mitigation programs and things like that all went away or were shut down during the pandemic. And like, so that's the thing that actually has an impact and had an impact. But again, it just feels like that was not the story that got through to us.
No, no, absolutely not. I mean, and I think, but it is heartening that like, at least there's this stat of people want to move money away from into, let's not trigger anyone by saying away, right? Because in the same Gallup poll, only 35% of Americans want to reduce the budget of police departments to fund social programs instead. Now, I would argue 35%, not bad. That's not as bad as like, I would even say Democrats or mainstream news outlets or anyone paints it as being. 78% saying we need alternatives and 35% saying we should defund. We get the money from the police. Right. We're sort of saying the same thing, but you're right. Like the takeaway now that we're being like handcuffed, like in terms of the budget, in terms of like all the debt ceiling bullshit, is only going to mean more like insecurity for folks, only going to maybe lead to more petty crime. The crime of allegedly trying to use a fake $20 bill. Remember,
Sure.
As George Floyd allegedly did.
Yeah. The shoplifting explosion was like a major media panic that turned out to not really be supported.
Exactly. Hey, you know what's going to lead to shoplifting? When you brutalize protesters and you make them get angry in front of a Walgreens. You know what I'm saying? There might be a little bit of looting. Obviously, over here it was like, let's get the Louis Vuitton, which I really don't care. I'm not mad at. But this year, in fact, this just broke that cities are going to pay $80 million to those who were injured in the 2020 racial justice protests. At least 19 cities will pay settlements to protesters who sustained injuries as a result of law enforcement action. Justin Hansford, a professor at Howard University School of Law and executive director of the Thurgood Marshall Civil Rights Center, called the total number of settlements unprecedented. I've never seen a wave of settlements for police brutality like this in American history. So on the one hand, you have Greg Abbott defending the dude who shot a Black Lives Matter demonstrator in Texas. Right. But on the other hand, quietly, there are massive payouts being made because folks were brutalized in the wake of George Floyd's murder.
Yeah. And I mean, part like that absolutely should be happening. That, like, when you look into the history of the LAPD, that does seem to be their entire strategy, is like just be brutal and, unjust in ways that where you're not even trying to hide that you're doing that, and then just pay massive payouts with taxpayer money. So absolutely, it's like we're paying for it.
Like that doesn't even come out of the police budget. Like at least you'd be like, look, you can do the pew pews and the bang bangs,
right?
But then you're gonna lose a police cruiser and you're gonna have to ride with Jack,
right?
And we all know that he hot boxes the car after lunch.
Yeah, that's when you fart a bunch after lunch, right?
That's when you fart a bunch after.
Yeah, okay.
But also, or you just smoke a lot of weed, whichever.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Both.
But
I never heard of that. I love how I don't think I've ever hot box. There's no need to hotbox anything. I was like, no, you could just inhale the smoke into your lungs.
Yeah. No, I'm
high enough.
Secondhand smoke mixed with the
air freshener
droplets of the other people that I'm in the car with. Yeah, it is good for dramatic effect.
That's true. It's fun to say.
You feel like you're getting high when you're in a car that is full of smoke. You're like, man, this is the most pot smokingest I've ever been in my life. Yeah.
Okay, so lastly, I think the thing that always astounds me, and it's the thing we covered for News Broke, it's the thing we've talked about a lot on all the different shows I'm on, is that, the BLM movement helped Biden win. For as little as he's done, it helped Biden win because it put into stark sort of view what 4 more years of Trump would be. I mean, remember how dark August was, 2020? You've got Trump basically playing the Nixon card. They've run amok with our cities, and then obviously COVID deaths and the election. It's just things got so dark, and people would have been completely demobilized had it not been for this massive uprising. And it absolutely channeled into Biden winning, and it absolutely was driven by young people. And there's nothing that's been delivered. The only thing that has been done is Biden last year in 2022 signed this executive order for federal law enforcement agencies that bans the use of chokeholds, restricts no-knock warrants, and requires anti-bias trainings and body-worn cameras, because we've never seen anything awful go down on a body-worn camera. It only goes so far because it does not apply to state and local police. So in this case, wouldn't have really done anything for George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, I believe, for that matter. But so this is I don't know, Jack, how much you've been following some of Biden's the executive actions he's taken, whether it's around this, whether it's around, the win around domestic work and home care. It's all strong suggestions to federal agencies to find money to try and allocate
Right.
to the beginning of the programmatic implementation.
Well, you have to be careful,
something.
Francesca. You just got to be very careful when you're making these sorts of changes only.
Yeah. It's just very, first of all, it's only federal and it's only like strong suggestions.
Sure.
Like, we hope you look into affordable childcare.
Yeah.
Could you do that? And then, is there money in this program? Nah, we made shirts.
Yeah. Presumably a lot of promises to have meetings later on about that subject.
Right, right, yeah. Exactly. There will be a lot of, Zooms. Again, back to
Right.
we should study the issue. But one thing, lastly on this, California is moving ahead because we didn't talk about this on the show, but maybe y'all did on the Zeitgeist. The California Reparations Task Force voted in a series of proposals for reparations for Black Americans. One of the areas includes mass incarceration, over policing. There's also housing discrimination. They recommended providing $115,000 per person in 2020, or $2,352 for each year of residency in the state since 1971, which was the first year, the war on drugs, a program that specifically targeted Black Americans. The first year that was implemented.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Damn. I mean,
not to make it all about this state, but like, I did not expect this. I absolutely would not have expected a task force to find this.
Not to make it all about the state, but what are you other states doing? Are you not trying hard enough? We're killing it out here.
Yes, Elon lives here, but look, we have a recommendation that probably won't be implemented.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, I mean, as we saw earlier with the celebration over the Uber law passing and then like mere days later it getting vetoed, it's like I also feel like there is a strategy of just, tying good ideas up in like, sure, yeah, that's a big win for us. And then like it gets bogged down in all sorts of red tape and bureaucracy and it's a mess.
You'll have to, I think I've said this before, but like it only applies if you have 3 children under the age of 5 and like drive a Nissan Altima, right. And like that is also champagne colored,
Yes.
Like
that's otherwise specific.
Yeah. And missing the undercarriage because it's too low to the ground, like my car, there's right. I'm bringing it all back. There's going to be caveats. But yeah. So anyway, it's when our vote is asked for yet again. I think young people, look, I will echo once again my mentor, Max Albon, who's been on this show, who says all it takes is for the right to win one more time. All they have to do is win again. One more, whether it's Trump, whether it's DeSantis, not this year, but hell, in 8 and 4 and 4. So I'm not going to say don't hold your nose and vote, but I'm very curious as to what pitch Biden is going to be making to the folks who've been arguing for racial justice in policing, police reform on a real level since this uprising.
What is the theory on the right wins one more time and then he's saying and then we're all screwed?
Yeah, effectively, and then it's fascism for realsies, and then we're doing it for realsies. It's not dress rehearsal. It's like, it's not, we're not just running through the show, we're on.
Right. Yeah. Jeez.
Which is hard to believe, but it's true. I was just commenting on the Damage Report. I'm just going to shout out every show that's not mine today that, Trump's language around like the communists and the Marxists, it's like all very throwbacky and also all very fashy. Like you can't be a fascist unless you say communists and Marxists are taking over.
Yeah, of course.
They won't let you in the club,
Yeah. It does feel like, something we've talked about on Zeitgeist a lot is just that it feels like the only one side, like people are becoming disillusioned with the order of things and this sort of, corporatocracy and, politicians not having the ability to like do anything, to the point that like Biden is like, I don't know, guys, you got to vote harder. And it's like, man, you're the president here. It feels like the only party that's responding in any way with something that's out of the ordinary is responding with fascism. And the feels like a very dangerous place to be, but it does feel like where we're at, unfortunately. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because up until 2020, I think I would have said you really have to give something. You have to give people something to vote for.
Right.
Outsiders win. Obama, Trump, obviously complete opposites, but they were outsiders. Obama motivated people. Trump motivated people. You got to motivate people. Give them something to vote for. Then 2020 happened, and it was the darkest days of our lives.
Yeah,
and it was like, no, you could just vote for the meat stick, like a warm body to make this other stuff go away.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I don't know if we're still there, but a couple comments before we move on to our final segment, because just the chat is on fire, y'all. Over on Twitch, ReeseFire268 reminding us that Elmer Stewart Rhodes's patch is real. He was cleaning a gun and shot himself in the face.
Oh, that's right. How do I keep forgetting that?
That's so good. That's so funny. Seth Evans on YouTube. Uber, but whole business model is undermining labor rights of cab drivers. Yeah, it's like, what if? I love how that's innovation. Like, what if we just put all these people out of work?
Disruptor.
Yeah, and then Gina Viola and Daniel Lee over here are leaders in Southern California. Gina saying Newsom and the California Dems are sellouts. They are. Daniel Lee, they beat us, then they paid us off. I was part of one of the lawsuits for Occupy, and after no LAPD policy changed. Then the Dems told BLM to shut up after the Biden win, and people are still being murdered by police. Yeah, you know, it's funny, Daniel. I visited LA. I was living in Buenos Aires at the time, and I visited LA, and it was like right after Occupy had sort of subsided, but also we know why. And I'd never been wanted to be back in the States so much as when Occupy popped off. I was like, oh my God, this is fucking dope. I want to be back in the States. We're finally doing some shit. And went to the, LA City Hall, and it had been fenced off. Because remember, Jack, how that was what happened. Like Occupy fizzled out because they just decided to fence every public park off that like what people were gathering in. Yeah. Like that was the response.
Right.
We hear you. Go home now. I mean, and
please
then,
get out of here.
Yeah. And then
don't use our bathrooms because it's stinky. Yeah. That was the big,
We all just went to Starbucks anyway. It's fine. I mean, that's effectively what happened. Gary Cooper on YouTube. 4 out of 5 people want alternatives to policing. Why aren't more people talking about that? Yeah, you won't see that on mainstream news outlets, sadly.
Because they just took the defund, like James Carville being like, defund the police, the stupidest 3 words ever said by a politician. I said, and like everyone just assumed that was true, and it was like, no, actually, a lot of people agree with that. Maybe a significant majority.
Wait, my favorite was oh my God, Cory Booker going, I mean, does anyone actually want to defund the police? Okay, can we all agree right here, right now? I pledge not to defund the police. I mean, there we go. And I was just like, oh, it was so sickening to watch him do that. But Kente cloths, remember, Nancy Pelosi knelt.
He just couldn't conceive of, they're so just buffered from any reality where that's the case, and it's 80% of Americans.
Kente cloth, the Kente cloth movement was just out of Veep. I'm sorry, how do you not?
Truly.
How does no one tell you that's a bad idea, especially if you're not going to deliver on it?
Yeah. No, that be the same person who's like, I mean, we all agree on this, right? They just can't. They're so far away from reality. It's a mess.
Also, they had to kneel for 9 minutes, and that's a lot of time in Manolos.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's go to our final segment, y'all. I don't know if you've heard, but there is a whale who's leading other whales in a quest for vengeance. After being wronged, apparently, by either a fisherman's net or a yacht. Something happened, but Gladys wants payback. And here's a little bit about Gladys. I'm going to read because it's one of those sort of silent AJ Plusy videos, even though it's from The Guardian. And then we're going to get into other animals. But I'll add, let's take a look at this. So, oh no, this is from The Telegraph. Here we go. So you see a killer whale. And it says a British couple sailed off the coast of Morocco when they spotted a pod of orcas. The mammal started bumping the boat, an attack which continued for an hour, it is claimed.
Yeah. The footage leaves a little something to be desired.
I know. I want to see some like bonking. This is one of several incidents in the same area. So you see like the orca like jumping. A vengeful killer whale called Gladys, which is just amazing on its, is leading a pack. Wait. Is leading a gang of orcas into battle with yachts around Gibraltar. A vengeful killer whale named Gladys.
Yeah. White Gladys, they call her. For some reason.
They call her White Gladys. She's like the Karen of the sea, but for good stuff.
Yeah.
Researchers believe that a female orca called White Gladys has been hell-bent on revenge after being traumatized by a collision with a boat or being trapped in an illegal fishing. Which, like, I get, girl. Like, I would be so mad. And also, I have so much
You've always said that. Yeah.
I've always said that. If I ever get, like, wronged by a yacht, Gladys's nautical attacks are now being copied by the rest of the killer whale population. Amazing.
Truly. It's upon us. First of all, this is how Succession should have ended. Is when like we were talking about that on Friday in our episode before, like we were, talking about Succession. We were like, oh man, like they should end it with like the Roy children being on the sea for some reason and just getting their whole shit bit off, by an orca
in the middle of everything. Oh.
And then they like actually went into the ocean and like we're talking about sharks before they went into the ocean. We were like, wait, it's happening.
No, I mean that whole scene, I was like, he's dying. He's gonna die. They're gonna kill him, or he's gonna die. And it like the fact that we didn't know, like I think everyone thought that, it was like, testament to the writing. Oh my God, pay your writers. So first of all, matriarchal society. I love that they're following women. This is definitely the Shiv Roy of the ocean.
Coming for their ass. And it's so
they approach the boats from behind, striking the rudder or the hull off the boat.
Right. That's how I would do it. So I'm glad.
Obviously,
it's good call.
I know how to sing.
Yeah, that's the guy in the pod being like, yeah, actually, that was what I was gonna say. So I'm glad Gladys came up with that one. It's everybody's good to go with White Gladys.
That one orca was like,
yeah.
I started it, but like nobody paid attention. That was my idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, I think I interrupted you, Jack, but the question is, what other animals are going to join the general strike against humanity and specifically against the 1%? This is when animals attack the rich. So I imagine Jumanji, but only for rich people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so strategically, the private jets are what that is their preferred. They love a yacht.
They love a yacht.
Apparently the orcas avoid yachts with motors on them. They just go after the sailing ones because they're quiet and the motors are like violent.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's
loud.
hard.
But private jets, like, can the wealthy survive without taking at least one private jet trip a week? I don't know. So I think like some manner of like, this wouldn't be popular with like animal rights activists. I'm not sure how you accomplish it, but the thing that brought Sully down, who our hero Sully was a bird strike on that plane. As
wait, Jake Sully? What are you talking about?
Just Sully the pilot, but yeah, I mean, also Jake Sully probably in a future update from the world of Avatar. So yeah.
The pilot. Yeah.
The pilot, Sully.
I never watched. I never saw it.
But yeah, I feel like that's probably.
Wait, what was it that took it down?
It was bird strike. It was like a flock of geese that I think took that. I didn't see the movie either. I just remember the stories from the.
I just remember I was gonna go with Geese too, with Private Planes. I just remember the goose flying into Fabio's head on the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Years ago. Guys, back in the day, there was a male model named Fabio who was apparently the sort of epitome of a man and an Adonis. And I never saw it, but again, I was like 9 and I was like, really? I guess maybe I would get it more now. Nah, his face doesn't do it for me. I like the hair, I like the muscles. He was on the cover of every Bodice Buster.
Yeah.
But anyway,
with an open, like a white, open, flowing dress shirt, which is why I was dressed like that before we started. I guess Francesca asked me.
Yeah, we asked you to just zip it up. You know, it's it's mostly a podcast. So
yeah. But fashion icon. A lot of people leave that out. Yeah.
I think geese are a great idea. Goose geese. And they need to down the Private Planes somehow.
Yeah.
I think beavers will start blocking oil pipelines.
Ooh. I like it.
Like this?
They work hard.
They work very hard. They're going to they're going to obviously dam it all up. It's going to stop. The pipeline put in the latest debt ceiling deal, which is for Joe Manchin in West Virginia and Appalachia. They're going to fuck that up.
Yeah.
I think actual wasps will start attacking
other
wasps
for name rights. Yeah.
Straight up name.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Just running around, because like when a bee or wasp attack happens, you're just running. You can't really see what's happening. There would be something extremely satisfying about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I just want them running on golf courses and tennis courts. Paige is saying golden doodles.
I can see that.
Wait, what does that mean?
They do have the proximity, right? You know, that's a pretty expensive
like if
breed
you
of dog.
sick everyone's golden doodle on the rich family that got them.
Yeah.
Like you just yeah. I get it. Yeah, you weaponize, like there's something within every golden doodle. It's like deploy, and then they attack.
Yeah.
That would be excellent. Here's what I like about this. We talked about the pandemic, and remember there was that moment where it was like the seas are repopulating and all nature is coming back.
And that is a dead-on impression of me, what I sounded like. So I do take offense to that, but that yeah, that
nature is reclaiming the disgusting canals.
Yeah.
In Venice. There's actually dolphins. There's no dolphins in the Venice canals. Oh my God. There's nothing but like gasoline and cum.
So much cum in the Venice canals for some reason.
For some reason. That's a horny ass city. It's a beautiful city.
Beautiful city. Can't stop jacking it. And doing it in the gassy water. The gasoline
this is like
rainbows.
That, but like it's kind of like, also finally like The Little Mermaid, I guess is, it's out now. I'm a big fan of a Black Ariel, but I'm not a big fan of live action, any Disney. I just cannot. I'm like, why not? Why ruin something that was so perfect? Just make Ariel black in cartoon form.
Yeah.
But the best part of that scene about that movie, remember when at the end, like they have to like all the shellfish and all the fish like start attacking the boat?
Yeah.
That's what I imagine is going to happen next when White Gladys summons the fucking King Triton sea-ass Sebastian.
Sea-ass. King Triton is sea-ass.
And his sea-ass. Talk about nice abs. King Triton's like the Fabio
ripped.
of...
Yeah.
So beautiful. Such a beautiful... I wonder if Javier Bardem is as... Like, I would watch it for Bardem. Okay, I'm getting off. But anyway, the point is, nature will reclaim when we all killed each other off.
Yeah.
And they can't wait. I mean, they're taking bets.
Yeah, they're trying to start things up, get things moving a little bit, give us the idea of taking out the rich, which actually would help us out. But it's wild to me that this movie hasn't been made yet. Like, we've made specific versions of it with like birds, like famously Hitchcock.
The birds. Yeah.
The birds, Birdemic, the superior movie. I've never seen it. But we've also made it with plants. Like The Happening, the M. Night Shyamalan thing is like the plants turn on us. Like, how has nobody just done the whole of like the entire animal kingdom just comes together
bands together?
Yeah, puts us back down on the bottom rung of the food chain.
How would they do it? Would they like would they reanimate some kind of like old woolly mammoth? You know, like here's what I imagine. I imagine like, okay, here, wait. We got the beginning scene. Here we go. So like, you know how like climate change is making all the permafrost melt?
Yeah.
So like it starts with some like old ass woolly mammoth or some like vicious dinosaur being unfrozen from like the Russian tundra.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually just anthrax that's going to kill us all, but
yeah.
Imagine if it's cooler than that.
I mean, I remember when the polar bears were like having to come down into cities because they were, you know, losing territory in the North Pole or whatever the pole is where polar bears live. So yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons that that climate change and, you know, the climate catastrophe is causing animals to interact with people more often. So I'm just saying, Spielberg, baby, call me. Don't
let James Cameron, you know,
beat you to it. Yeah.
Beat you to it. I heard a rumor that like Spielberg felt like apparently when Avatar 1 came out, he felt really fragile about, he was like, I'm no longer on top because Cameron had crushed it so hard.
Yeah.
This is how fragile people in Hollywood are. Even when you're Steven Spielberg, you think you like have imposter syndrome.
I'll tell you why they haven't made the movie, by the way. It's because they don't want to give the animals any ideas. That's
so true.
Steven Spielberg. Yeah.
That's so true. You're going to have like an orca, which is like the 3D glasses coming out of the theater. Like, man, we should do that shit.
Whoa. That's my impression of a high orca. Whoa. Yeah.
Oh my God. Jack O'Brien, you're wonderful. You're amazing. Where can people find you and follow you on the socials?
You can listen to my co-host Miles Gray and I twice daily on the weekdays on the Daily Zeitgeist.
Twice daily? You're about to go do more work after this, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. We also have a weekly NBA podcast, Miles and Jack got Mad Boosties. And then you can find me on Twitter at Jack_O'Brien.
Amazing.
Those are the places. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was
wonderful. Nalini, we don't even miss you. No, Nalini will be back. She wasn't feeling so good. But okay, Jack, take very good care. Thank you for being on. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. Hef, just for the super chat. Venice Canal is filled with gas and cum. Laughing my ass off. And then Camperman 5000, thank you for being a member. Also saying saber-toothed tigers, Tasmanian tigers. Or Tasmanian tigers, I think. Calling saber-toothed tigers. Yeah, look, I've never seen Ice Age, but I feel like a radicalized Ice Age would definitely be the thing that could pop off our... I don't know if Jack thinks it should be animated. I feel like it should be. I mean, everything... It's not clear. Well, we're going to work on it, and we're going to retool, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about it. Pontius Pirate on Twitch, alligators on Florida golf courses. Alligators pick off 1 or 2 or a dozen humans every year. I feel like that shit's already happening. And they're always golfers. So I'm like, maybe they've been slowly doing it, and now orcas are like just one-upping them. You know, they've been communicating through the mycelium underground. That's the thing. That's the fungi. Anyway, a few other comments about other stuff. TMHC, thank you so much for your super chat. This donation is 2% to Francesca and 98% to Jack's plumpers. Going to bed now. Do I want to know what those are? Are those his, is it his calves or his chest? I don't know. I don't want to know. Maybe I do. Schmegley says, Franz patented exasperated half sigh, half scream. Indeed. That's my signature. There it is. Robert, thank you for your super chat saying Biden's debt ceiling defense is he could have failed harder. America is an absurd nation governed by ridiculous people. Indeed, the only nation in the world other than Denmark with a debt ceiling limit. Denmark's debt ceiling is so high, it's just like performative. They're just like, we will deal with later. That's not a Danish accent, but you know what I'm saying. And Stone Cold Coder saying, I think the horrifying statistic is that 99% of body camera footage is never viewed or reviewed. Yeah. And Olithus, sadly, with nature, we're about to reach the find out stage. Exactly. You know, they heard about the 6th biggest extinction and they're like, motherfucker, not yet, bitch. Not yet. Not yet. All right, you guys. And with that, let us just ride out and thank everybody for supporting this show with the fart song. Oh, patrons at $10 or more, there are none. That's where you come in right now. Big tippers, we don't have any. Fuck. Let's go over to Twitch. Twitch, don't let me down now. Pontius Pirate resubscribe with Prime. Arlan2 resubscribe for 1 month of tier 1. Subscribe for 19 months. Oh my god. And MLM subscribe with Prime. Thank you so much. And Late Bloomer resubscribe with Prime, or resubscribe at 1 month tier 1. Subscribe for 23 months. Has it already been almost 2 years? Damn. Damn indeed. And Centaur Dragon resubscribe with Prime. Subscribe with 8 months. Thanks for all you do. No, thank you for all that you do. And Holy Beer Dragon, I don't know if I thanked you, but thanks for resubscribing. And remember, we have the bonus bish on Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And of course, thanks to Paige Omek, to Maximilian Inhofe, to Andy Vasoyan. We stream every Tuesday and Friday at that time I just said. Follow the show on Twitter at Bitchuation Pod, TikTok and Instagram at Franny Fio. And remember, fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, and don't just bitch about it. Be a minute. Bye.